Uh, Welcome, good learners, and this is from the doll's house. We're doing the final touches, final survey, a look at here and a look at there, to look at what is it that maybe we missed or you missed, and even as you're preparing for its final approach. Uh, with me today, there is an essay that we're going to survey comprehensively. We're going to exhaust at least several areas that are posed, maybe that are projected to be maybe examined on, and how I wish that you follow through, you keep up to the task, not really to be left out. So, without that much further ado, let's exactly dig into it. Now, up there, sometimes quitting a relationship may be the only option, but it hurts loved ones. Using relevant illustrations from Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, write an essay in support of this assertion or statement. Sometimes, quitting a relationship may be the only option, but it hurts loved ones. So, using relevant illustrations from Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, write an essay in support of the same statement. Good students, the keywords in the question have to include quitting a relationship. And then the other one is only option, and of course, it hurts the loved ones. Now, from these, we can use the following guide questions to come up with the points of interpretation and textual illustrations. So, therefore, let's look at a doll's house sample introduction. People are sometimes forced to quit their relationship. As a result, they make their partners or relations to experience emotional or psychological pain. Some characters in A Doll's House, like Nora and Mrs. Linde, abandon their loved ones, causing them untold agony. Adult House essay developing the body. Now, that is the next stage after you've done your introduction part there. Now, on developing the body, at least give four well developed points. Each point must, of course, follow in a separate paragraph. Give sufficient textual details on the action, that is on quitting, by, of course, the background, that is the relationship challenges, and of course, the outcome. And then again, pain. Now, the following must be apparent in each paragraph in order for you to score full marks. One, established a relationship. For example, you've got Nora and Helmer. Two, background. For example, the challenges and of course the decisions to quit. And then three, hurting loved ones. Now, these show the pain according to the book and also by providing evidence, citing evidence from the text on the loved ones that really got hurt in that context. Now, points of interpretation. Nora leaves Helmer. Linde leaves Krogstad. Helmer leaves Nora. Anne leaves the wicked man. Nora leaves her children. Dr. Rank abandons the Helmers. Now, developing paragraphs. Character. Nora is in an established relationship with Torvald Helmer. They have been married for 8 years and their relationship seems cozy. Textual evidence on the relationship between Nora and Helmer. Torvald refers to his wife using all sorts of pet names, for example, Little Lark, Little Squirrel, Little Spendthrift, rather, Little Skylark, etc. Come, come, my little skylark, and I quote, must not drop her wings. What is this? Is my little squirrel out of temper? That is found on page 3 to 4. Another paragraph development point here we have Torvald takes Nora playfully by the ear, page 3. Nora plays with Torvald coat buttons, page 5. And Nora tells Mrs. Linda that the last 8 years have been a happy time for her, page 9. Nora also tells her about her three lovely children and Torvald's new appointment as a manager with the bank. She's relieved and so happy. That is found on page 11. There are many more illustrations in the book. but we have to ponder on the first, or the ones that I've just listed. You should cite sufficient evidence in order to score full marks. Merely glancing at the events would not suffice. Action, followed by action. Nora quits the relationship, citing various challenges. After Torvald reproaches about the loan and forgery, she decides to leave. And I quote, I'm not fit for the task. I must try to educate myself, and that is why I'm going to leave you now. That's page 112. And another quote, I cannot remain with you any longer, page 113. I do not love you anymore, page 116. I had been living here with a strange man and I had borne him 3 children, that is page 117. And I cannot spend the night in a strange man's room, that's page 118. Background information, identifying the character who quits and mentioning the quitting action and the pain it causes, that is the outcome, merely earns you 1 mark out of the possible 3. You'd score full marks only if you sufficiently give the background information, which includes the challenges that forces Nora to quit the relationship with Helmer. Torvald overworks himself and falls dreadfully ill. That's on page 112. Nora borrows and £250 to facilitate the trip to Italy. This is after she successfully begs Torvald to take the vital trip meant to save his life. That's page 19. Mrs. Linde finds it unwise that Nora borrows without her husband's permission, but Nora wonders if it is imprudent to save, quote-unquote, your husband's life. That is on page 18 to 19. Nora keeps the loan a secret from Torvald. She understands his manly independence. She does not want to ruin their beautiful home and mutual relations. She struggles to repay the loan by working and earning money. She also saves housekeeping money from Torvald. Still strives to get Torvald a good table and her sweet little darlings decent clothes. That is page 20 to 21. When Krogstad threatens to blackmail her, she has faith that her loving husband would repay the money owed and rid her of the obligations. That is on page 37. She forges a name to spare her father's anxiety and care and save Torvald's life. Page 41. She tries to plead Krogstad's care, but only for the sake of the family. Page 59. And I quote, if your little squirrel were to ask you for something very, very prickly, that's page 57. Now, she is desperate to protect her relationship with Torvald. She begs Christine to be her witness. When Torvald finds out about the secret, he insults Nora and forbids her from raising the children. Miserable, I quote right there. Miserable creature, what have you done? But I shall not allow you to bring up the children. I dare not trust them to you. Page 105. Torvald changes tune when Krogstad sends back the bond, but it is too late. Now, let's deliberate on the outcomes. Do not simply mention that Nora's departure hurts Torvald. Give some evidence to back up your claim. Torvald begs Nora to stay. He says, I have it in me to become a different man. He begs her to wait until the next day. He suggests that they live as a brother and sister. And I quote, can I ever be anything more than a stranger to you? When Nora leaves, Torvald sinks down a chair, his face buried in his hand. He feels empty. This is enough proof of Torvald's pain. Let's look at a sample set book essay questions and answer based on a doll's house. And of course, we're going to respond to this question, assuming that we are giving it an approach or we are responding to the same prompt. So here you go. Sometimes quitting a relationship may be the only option, but it hurts loved ones. Using relevant illustrations from Henry Ibsen's Doll's House, write an essay in support of this assertion or this statement. Okay, right there is our sample model response. Good learners, you may find it useful. How about paying attention to a couple of lines? A relationship undergoes a lot of challenges sometimes. If a relationship does not work, it may force one of the partners to abandon it and seek other options. In the event that one partner walks out on another, it causes pain. Mrs. Linde abandons Krogstad due to unavoidable circumstances and he ultimately feels like a shipwrecked man. Now, the first Citation from the text. Nora decides to leave her husband, Torvald, causing him untold misery. Before she decides to leave, they had a cordial, intimate relationship. Helmer displays affection by using loving pet names like Little Squirrel or Little Skylark when referring to his wife. When asking for favors from him, she intimately plays with his coat buttons. Nora affectionately tells Mrs. Linda about her three little children and her happy 8 years marriage. She is also excited about Torvald's appointment as bank manager. Problems begin when Torvald overworks and falls ill. He has to go to Italy in order to recover. He is adamant about taking the trip, even after Nora begs earnestly, so she is forced to do what? To borrow £250 from Krogstad. She also forges her father's signature. She keeps this a secret from Torvald in order to protect his manly independence, maintain their mutual relationship, and guard their beautiful, happy home. She works tirelessly and saves her housekeeping money with a view of secretly repaying the loan. She does all this for the sake of her husband and family. However, when Torvald learns about Nora's secret, he is infuriated. He calls her a miserable creature and a criminal. He further forbids her from raising her children, whom she loves deeply. Nora decides to leave Torvald since he is not ready to make any sacrifice for her. She calls him strange names, a strange man who doesn't understand her. Torvald later has a change of heart when Krogstad sends them the damning bond. He begs Nora to leave the next day. He tries to convince her to stay so that they could live as brother and sister. He even reminds her of her duties as a wife and a mother. When Nora leaves, he sadly sinks into a chair and buries his face in his hand, feeling devastated and empty. He is deeply hurt by her departure. Mrs. Linde is forced to abandon her true love, Krogstad, and this undoubtedly makes him miserable. That's another case scenario. Mrs. Linde, who is forced to abandon her true love, Krogstad, and this is, of course, causes him a miserable uh, pain. Krogstad sincerely loved Mrs. Linde and would gladly do anything for her sake. She tells Nora that she knew him many years ago when she was a solicitor's clerk. Mrs. Linde has no option but to leave him when her mother is bedridden and helpless, and she is forced to provide for her two younger brothers. Krogstad's prospects seemed hopeless at the time, so Mrs. Linde was left with no choice but quitting their relationship and marrying a rich man. When she leaves Krogstad has an unhappy marriage and later becomes a widower. Krogstad calls Mrs. Linde a heartless woman because he was hurt when she jilted him. Mrs. Linde regrets and says that she did not do it with a light heart. She had no right to throw him over for anyone's sake. When Krogstad lost her, it was akin to losing the solid ground under his feet. He feels like a shipwrecked man clinging to a bit of wreckage. Mrs. Linde also feels like a shipwrecked woman. She begs Krogstad to take her back so that she could take care of her children. Although she has no option, when she leaves Krogstad, her action hurts him. Another case scenario, a case study from the text, is when Helmer quits his relationship with his wife, Nora. This hurts Nora. He strips her of her wifey duties by forbidding her from bringing out the children. Nora is hurt because she feels Torvald is an ingrate who does not appreciate her selflessness. Before the relationship went to the dogs, it was warm and cozy. Torvald rather treated Nora like a doll and called her pretty little names like Squirrel and Skylark. Nora acknowledges that for 8 years she has a happy married life. She is happy with her children and delighted about Torvald's new appointment. However, when when he falls ill and she's forced to borrow money to cater for his recuperation, things go south. She's proud for saving Torvald's life since she did it for the sake of love. She's the loving wife who would do anything to please Torvald. Torvald also loves her wife, or so it seems. He chooses for her a dress and picks the Neapolitan fisher girl character for her for the fancy dress ball. Nora tells Dr. Rang that Torvald is absurdly fond of her and even somewhat jealous. She feels that he loves her deeply. He sometimes fantasizes that she is a young, beautiful bride. However, when he learns of Nora's secret about the loan and the forgery, he quits the relationship by denying Nora the right of raising her children. He runs that he is a miserable creature and a criminal who has ruined his future. Nora expected Toval to take the blame and say he is the guilty one. This would be a wonderful thing. She is hurt and disappointed when the wonderful thing does not happen. In her awakening, she discovers that Toval is a strange man who does not love her. He hurts her when she selfishly quits the relationship. Anne walks out of the relationship between the father of her daughter and her. Nora wonders how she could have the heart to put out her own child among strangers. Anne was in a relationship with a certain man, and the result of this fling was the birth of her daughter. Anne has no option but to quit the relationship and leave out her daughter among strangers, since the wicked man did not help her to raise the child. She chooses to become Nora's nurse, although the daughter wrote to her when she was confirmed that, and when she was married, she must have been hurt growing up without the warmth of her mother's love. Anne had no choice but to leave the wicked man, but this causes her daughter untold misery. The fallout between Nora and Toval forces her to quit her relationship with her children. Nora has a strong, loving, motherly bond with her three children. He buys the children present, namely a new suit and sword for Ivar, a horse and a trumpet for Bob, and a dolly and a dolly's bedstead that is for Emma. She is delighted at the fact that the children will enjoy Christmas. She proudly tells Miss Linda about her three lovely children. When she plays hide and seek with them, their time together is filled with laughter. The children are so attached to her that they want to continue playing after Krogstad comes and leaves. Naturally, mothers spend a lot of time with their children, so Torvald thinks that a mother's action could have a deep-seated effect on the children. Later, the children beg so earnestly to be allowed to be with their mother. Anne says that they are accustomed to having Mama with them. When Krogstad threatens to blackmail her, she tells him to think about her little children. Nora is forced to leave her children, but she does not. She does so with a heavy heart. Torvald forbids her from bringing up the children. When she decides to leave, he reminds her of the sacred duties, her husband and her children. Nora, however, says that the children are in better hands than hers, since the maid know everything in the house. She will always think of them, since they had a strong attachment to their mother. The children are hurt when she leaves them. And lastly, Dr. Rank quits the relationship that he had with the Helmers. They had a strong relationship as great friends. They do not even have to invite him for functions since he would come to the house anyway. He even understands the rules of the Helmer household. For example, macarons are forbidden. Whenever Torvald is busy, Rank spends time with his wife Nora. He visits them every day regularly. He is Torvald's intimate friend and a great friend of Nora's. He is practically just like one of the family. Dr. Rank fears that Christine Linde would replace him as the beat friend to the Helmers. When his death is imminent, Dr. Rank takes his leave effectively, quitting his relationship with the Helmers. He sends them a card with black roses over his name, signifying his death. Torvald and Nora are devastated. In brief, indeed, quitting a relationship hurts loved ones, even if one has no choice but to leave. That marks the end of this particular episode, good learners out there, and how I wish that you take this particular holiday, or you take this particular free time that you have out there to better yourself with this particular work. You never know. And if in case you came across this work, it was your first time, how about a thumbs up? That is a like and a subscription, and all these will do me good. In fact, it's a motivation to keep me doing what I'm doing. Above all, I just want to wish you from the bottom of my heart the real success. Real success. Good day.